What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a look at a recent auction that I took part in over in the UK. And there were some really hot items in this auction, as you can see by this thumbnail. Graded, ungraded, lots of really nice double stem Palitoy blisters on a few of these. Some graded, some ungraded. Unfortunately, the auction process was not very good. They just did not have a smooth auction process, and I'll dig into that in a little while. I did manage to win one, so that was good. I would have won a lot more if they had just made it easy for me to give them my money. But it was just kind of a weird process. I'd never taken part in a true auction house type of setup like this. And maybe it's just how they do it overseas, but I don't think Vectis works this way. So anyway, I just want to say thanks to those of you that watch my stupid videos. I've got some really cool items here that I wanted to show you. So this was on a website called Live Auctioneers. And what Live Auction, I'm not blaming them. Okay, they do a great job. But how Live Auctioneers works is that they're basically a amalgamation or some kind of, gatherer of different auctions around the world. And if you type in, Star Wars AFA and set up a search alert, they'll let you know when any auction house that uses the Live Auctioneers setup for those auctions, they'll let you know that is coming up. So Live Auctioneers basically is like an eBay for auctioneers. And so this was being run by an auction company in the UK called C&T Auctioneers. You can see it in the lower right-hand corner here. C&T Auctioneers and Valuers Limited. And so they use Live Auctioneers for people who are not going to be present at the actual physical auction to place bids. And, they basically work like Heritage, that, they take online bids up to the final day of the auction. And then after that, it's all live bidding. And which I don't like that much. I think it's kind of silly to only be able to bid live, in the last 15 minutes or whatever it is. But that's how Heritage works. That's how these guys work. And I'm sure that's how Vectis works. A few others. Hakes is how you do it, I think, for action figures. You can kind of bid right up, during as the auctions are closing. But anyway, there were a number of really nice items here. And you can see the sold prices here in both pounds as well as dollars. Keep in mind that there were buyer's premiums, just like with any other auction house. It worked out to about 30% buyer's premiums between shipping and taxes and the buyer's premium. All of that rolled together. I calculated it based on one of the items that I managed to win in this auction. So if you take the final sales price that you see here, add about 30% to it, and that's really what it sold for after accounting for all the different taxes and fees and VAT taxes and everything else. They also charge for using your credit card. There's a fee for that. So anyway, this was a UKG 80% die-cast Slave 1 yellowed blister, but very nice. You can see the label there, 75, 85, 85, where the sub score is yellowed 80, but very lightly yellowed, unpunched, no price sticker. That one sold for $507. Again, add about 30%, so that's about $650, which I still think is a very fair price. Next up was a Cloud Car die-cast. This one had a clear blister. It was ungraded, but there was some issues with the card. It was not perfect. If you zoom in on it, you can kind of see some litho issues in the upper left-hand corner there. Again, all of these I was watching, right? And what I did was I bid on 3 of them, and it said your bid has to be approved by C&T Auctioneers. So email them to have your bid approved. And so that's what I did. I bid on a couple of them. I was like, well, it says I've got to get approval. So I emailed them and I said, hey, I bid on these items. I've uploaded, I signed up for the auction. I included my credit card information on there. You guys have my credit card information. Can you please approve my bid? So it's just kind of a strange process. So I did that, and I still ran into problems after that, which I'll go over in a second. But anyway, back to the die-cast Cloud Car, clear blister, very nice. That one sold for $254. Pretty good deal there. I probably should have bid on that one. Well, I would have bid on that one more if I had some ability to do so. And I'll dig into that more in a second. But let's just kind of go through some of these others that I thought were really nice. Here was a Sand People clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker. This was not graded, but this was the 41 back D or E. And that one sold for $457 US. Again, add 30% to that, but not a bad price. Not a bad price for what it was. Here was a big one, and I thought this final sales price was actually pretty good, even after you account for the 30% markup. It was a AFA 80 30-back Palitoy, and you can see it's got the Palitoy logo down there, blonde-haired Luke, walking photo, archival case, AFA 80, 80, 85, 75 were the sub-scores on that. It got the 75, obviously, because it had torso discoloration on the figure. The saber and the pistol were still taped to the inside of the blister, so we know that didn't affect the score. It had to be because of the torso discoloration, which is very apparent when you look at it at the close-up here. But still, this is a Palitoy, early Palitoy, ESB cardback, unpunched, no price sticker, AFA 80, $1332 US was the final winning price. Add about $400 onto that. That works out to, let's call it about $1,700 to $1,800 after all the fees and everything, which I would still argue is probably below where I've seen this one sell for, even on, Facebook, things like that. So that was a pretty good price. Here's one I did bid on, okay? So this one was a UKG 85% Palitoy 45 back B for the Cloud car. Would fit perfectly with my collection, right? This, I collect Cloud car mint on card, and this was a true 45 back B, non-Toy Tony. I double checked it against that, straight 85s. And so I bid early on. This was one of the early bids I made, and I bid apparently around 530 pounds. And I would have gone higher, but I got the bid approved. And then afterwards it says you are approved up to a max of 500 pounds, even though I've already bid above 500 pounds on this one. And so I emailed them back and said, hey, you got my credit card on file. Why are you putting a $500 max, 500 pound max on my bids? I've got 3 different items that I'm bidding on right now. And those 3 together, this one alone is worth more than 500 pounds. Why do you have a bid max of 500 for me? And I never heard back from them, and it wouldn't allow me to bid any higher than what I bid originally. So I got outbid on it. It ended up selling for 580 pounds, which is $736 US. Add again 20% to that, so that works out to about $950 for that. And again, I don't know if I would have gone that high, but I didn't have the option to go that high. I was sitting at my computer when these were ending. It was ending about 8 o'clock in the morning, my time. Kids were out of the house. Wife was out of the house. So I had the house to myself. And so I was watching them, hoping that I would get approved for a higher bid. I tried to bid. It said, no, you're approved up to 500 pounds. You can't go any higher. And I don't understand why they did that. It makes no sense. They had my credit card on file. My credit card has a credit card max of like $14,000. I should have been able to bid on it. So it's just really bizarre to me. And it is what it is. I mean, it's not like the end of the world or anything, but it's almost like they were trying to make it more difficult for bidders that were not local or that were not going to be there. But I was there for the live auction at the end, and it still wouldn't let me bid. So go figure. I don't know why they did it that way, but that's what they did. Maybe because I was a first-time bidder. They were afraid about someone coming in and just bidding everything up and then not paying for it. But again, I had my credit card on file, so I don't get it. Here was the other one I did bid on, and again, I definitely would have increased my bid on this one if they had gotten back to me, but they didn't. But this one was a Palitoy 65 back B Leia in her Bouche disguise. Absolutely stunning condition. Unpunched, no price sticker, clear blister as well. And I think my bid was 300, or my bid was 320 pounds. It sold for 340 pounds. Again, I put that early 320 bid in early on, and then they approved me, and then they wouldn't allow me to bid any higher than that. So I definitely would have been higher on this one. I would have gone to 400 pounds without a doubt just to get it, because it was clear blister. It's just a foreign card back, and it would go nicely with my Palitoy Tri-Logo version, which there was one of those in this auction as well, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Here are some of the double stem blisters that are really cool. So these are all Palitoy 65 backs. They had the famous double stem blisters, not something that you see very often here in the U.S., right? You very rarely see double stem blister Palitoys available for sale, even on Hakes. They just don't pop up very often. This one was a UKG 85% clear blister Emperor's Royal Guard, 65 back B Palitoy. Stunning. And it sold for big money, 680 pounds, which is 862 US dollars. Not terribly surprising given that clear blister US Kenner cards can go for this price in this kind of grade, 85 grade condition. So very, very nice. To me, I'd rather have the double stem Palitoy versus a US Kenner, even though the US Kenners are probably tougher to get in a clear blister. I just think that the double stem blisters are so cool. Something about them I find really attractive aesthetically. Here was a double stem blister. This was a UKG 85% Biker Scout Palitoy, again 65 back D, and clear blister, unpunched, no price sticker. That one also sold for big money, 700 pounds, which is 888 US dollars. They also had the 65B for Admiral Akbar, and this one was a UKG 80%, and you can see the label there. 80, 85, 85 were the sub scores on that one. Stunning condition. That one sold for 420 pounds, which is 533 US dollars. So I think relative to US Kenner cards, if those are clear blister, they're probably about equal in terms of price. I would argue that if this item had been for sale on Hakes, it probably would have sold for higher than this price, just because there's a big voracious appetite for US buyers of these types of items. We just don't get them over here very often. So I would argue that we'd probably pay a premium for those types of items here versus what folks in the UK maybe would pay for. That's just speculation. I have nothing to base that on other than my own appetite for these types of items. I just think that they're really, really cool. Here was another one. This was a 65 back D double stem blister AT-AT driver. That one sold for 300 pounds, which is 380 US dollars. Really nice example. I would, this one looked like it would grade very, very highly, and I thought that was worth every penny of 380 US dollars. Here's the one I did end up winning, and again, I put this bid in a long time ago, and my bid was 240 pounds. Well, no, my bid was higher than this. This just shows my bid, and then a competing bid coming in of 260 pounds, and then my final winning bid was 280 pounds. This was for a double stem blister, 45 back C Dengar. And it wasn't in the greatest condition. I think that when I get it in hand, I'll have a better idea of what it'll grade at. I think it's going to grade about a 75, but I'm okay with that because it was clear blister. And again, it's tough to find this type of item over here. It goes perfectly with my collection. This will be my 6th, assuming it arrives here safe and sound, this will be my 6th Dengar mint on card. And it sold for 280 pounds, which is 355 US dollars. And then again, after accounting for shipping and taxes and the credit card processing fee and the buyer's premium, it works out to about 450 to 480 US dollars, somewhere in that ballpark. I don't remember exactly, but somewhere in that ballpark is what I end up paying for it. Is it an overpay? Probably to some people it is. For me, I'm willing to pay that because it's just, I think it fits in perfectly with my Dengar collection. So hopefully it arrives safe and sound. We'll see. But that is not shipped yet. I did give them authorization to charge my credit card, and I would have given them authorization to charge my credit card for even more money if they had given me a little notice on, or increased my bid amount. But I'll stop whining about that now. Here was another double stem. This was a Han Solo graded UKG 80%. This one was the 65 back D as well. 80, 85, 85 were the sub scores. Here's the back of the card. Beautiful condition. Clear. This is one you do find pretty regularly on eBay. I've seen this one get listed a few times. Not this particular one, but this particular card back and character combination. So this one is pretty readily available. I've seen on eBay over the years. But so as a result, it's sold for less. It sold for 260 pounds, which is 330 US dollars. Just because it's fairly numerous. You can find that one, if you're patient, you can find that pretty easily. Next up was a double stem Stormtrooper 65 back D, clear blister, punched example, UKG 80%. That one sold for 500 pounds, which is 634 US dollars. Again, I think if it was a 65 back US Kenner card, 65A or B, clear blister, it would have sold for this price, if not higher, to be honest with you. So again, you got to factor in the 30%. So this is really about, let's call that $900, 730, so about $800 on that. And I would say that that's about what it would go for an AFA 80 65 back US Kenner version clear blister Stormtrooper. It'd probably go for about that money. So right in line with that. Here was a 65D Darth Vader. This one had the more standard kind of longer Palitoy blister on this one. Probably a Spanish PvP figure inside that. I don't know that for sure. I can't tell just by looking at a Vader whether it's a Spanish PvP or a Hong Kong or what. And a lot of them did say made in Hong Kong on the actual card back, even though it had the Spanish figure inside. I think my friend Blacked Out Ewoks has this exact card back and figure character combination, and it has the Spanish PvP inside. So I know a lot of those did come with the Spanish figure. So that one sold for 200 pounds, which is $254 US. And again, it had some scuffing on the upper right-hand side by the Return of the Jedi logo. So that held it back a little bit, probably about a 75 max on that one. To finish things off, we got some beautiful Palitoy Tri-Logos that sold. This one was the Luke Jedi that sold for 480 pounds, which is $609 US. And you can see there, it's got the smaller French Meccano blister on this one. So this one was made in the French Meccano factory, just based on that blister style, versus the Palitoys that had the larger, wider blisters. This one, the French Meccano factory were known for those smaller, tighter blisters. So very nice example there for $609 US plus fees. Here is that Bush Tri-Logo that I was mentioning earlier on. This was a UKG 85% punched example. Very, very nice. UKG 85. Here are the sub scores. 85, 85, 80 were the sub scores on that one. And so this is one I've got in my own collection, graded by CAS. Mine's a CAS 80. But this UKG 85% sold for 720 pounds, which is $913 US. Again, after factoring in fees and everything, that's close to $1,100. Again, mine's lower grade. Mine's a CAS 80. I paid about $900 for mine. The UKG 85% sold for $1,100. But again, it's higher grade, and I would argue it's worth every penny of that. It's hard to find this one, I feel like, but that one did sell for $1,100. Here was an ungraded FX7. The blister did have some dings to it, so that one sold for a little bit cheaper than probably what it would have gone for over here. 120 pounds, which is $152 US plus fees. The big one was this one. This one was an AFA 75 Jawa on the Tri-Logo card back, and it sold for a song and a dance, if you ask me. It was an AFA 75 archival case. Obviously got the 75 because of the blister damage. You can see some heavy blister dings there. Probably, I would argue it's probably even a little bit overgraded, just judging by that blister. You can see the heavy dings to it. Somehow AFA decided to still give it a 75 for the blister score. Card 80, figure 85. But I'm really surprised they gave this one an overall 75 and a 75 for the blister. I would argue that's more like a 70 blister to me. But they took mercy on this submitter, maybe because of rarity. I don't know. But it still sold for 1,600 pounds, which is about $2,000 US. Again, add 30 to 35% on that number, and that gets you to about $2,800 US, somewhere in that ballpark, somewhere $2,800 US after fees, which I would argue is a great deal. That's a really, really low price for a pretty rare item. And I wasn't watching when this one sold. I don't think I would have bid. I couldn't have bid on it anyway. But anyway, I just thought it was a really interesting sale and came in a lot lower than I was expecting. I was thinking, even factoring in the fees and everything, I would have guessed $3,500 to $4,000 US, but it did not approach anywhere near that number, which I was really surprised by. So anyway, that's the final tally. I didn't include everything that was available in this auction, but it kind of left to be. I mean, no offense to the auctioneers, but they just did not run a smooth process at all. They made it very difficult for me to give them my money. I'm happy I won the Dengar, but I certainly would have been even higher on the Cloud Car Pilot Palitoy or the Bush Palitoy that was clear blister that was in amazing shape, but it just wasn't meant to be. But hopefully I get my Dengar safe and sound, and I'm sure I'll show it on the channel whenever it does arrive. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.